IoT, powering the digital economy. Brought to you by Schneider Electric.
From cars and trucks to the aggregates used to construct buildings, the raw materials to make them come from beneath our feet. Without the mining sector, business would fail. But mining is traditionally conservative when introducing innovation.
Technological development in mining is moving fast, driven by environmental concerns, the difficulty of extracting some finite resources, and the whims of the global market for metals and minerals. But innovation is here whether business likes it or not, and those that don't move with the times will be left behind.
The whole of the business community has a stake in the success of mining. So in this program, I'll be meeting the business leaders who are changing the way we source the raw materials that make the world tick.
I'll visit the world's largest mining company to find out what technology they are bringing into their business. I'll speak to the software company that's helping mining companies become more efficient. And we'll find out what the mining industry of the future will look like.
We've been digging stuff out of the ground for tens of thousands of years. But now digital innovation is having an impact on the mining industry. It's a sector that's been slow to change working practices. But disruptor companies are pushing innovation forward, and traditional mining companies are playing catch-up.
BHP is the world's largest mining company, with their marketing hub here in Singapore. Being close to their customers in Asia helped reported revenues of more than $38 billion and a net income of more than $6 billion in 2017. Diane Jurgens is the Chief Technology Officer at BHP, a role she took on in 2016. Prior to that, she worked in the Chinese automobile industry. She liaises with the mines, the company assets, to roll out innovation and make the business more efficient.
We and my team work very close with our assets, our operations, to understand their problems, understand the business, and then marry that with technology. Because when you take all the history that we have in this industry and technology, and then multiply that by the tier one assets we have, it's an incredible opportunity to create the future, but add real value.
What are the challenges that exist in the mining sector today?
So one of the challenges is the rapid demand and growth around the world. As the population increases, as the standard of living rises, more and more of our products are needed. And our challenge is to be a dependable supplier to meet that demand in a changing and growing world.
And how are you using innovation to overcome those challenges?
Well, you'd be surprised how much technology and innovation is used in the resource industry. If you think about an automotive manufacturing line, that's the industry I was in last. We actually have a manufacturing line for the resources industry as well. So we're working on advanced sensors to more precisely model and understand what's underground, to find and reveal the hidden opportunities. And then we load material onto automated trucks, autonomous trucks, with wheels as high as the ceiling that move around 250 tons of material. We have almost 50 of these large, enormous trucks remotely programmed to go pick up ore, run a circuit path, and either drop it off to a waste or to our processing plants. Absolutely amazing to see these huge trucks running around driverless. We use automated drills. We load train cars very precisely using lasers and weightometers to get the maximum volume of train ore. So we use technology across our entire supply chain.
So clearly you're having to be very creative when it comes to finding new sources of raw materials. How is innovation helping with that?
Well, the more that we can understand the ore bodies and or opportunities to find ore underground. So we're using machine learning and a lot of other technologies to give hidden insights into what's under the ground so that we can efficiently find and extract the material. So a lot of what we need to do is bring the physical infrastructure. We build cell towers, we have trailers that move around to create the bubble over our operations so that we can create that Internet of Things on sites that normally wouldn't have any access to technology.
What about the workforce? How are they adapting to all of this innovation in the sector?
Well, it is changing where and how we work, but in good ways. For example, our drill operators used to sit out on these huge platforms in the middle of our mine sites, and it was quite hot, a bit stressful. Now those operators can sit in offices and watch and operate 3 drills simultaneously. So not only are they in better conditions, but they're a lot safer.
When you compare the way the automotive industry has sort of adapted to digital innovation and technology with what's going on in the mining space, what would you say?
I think we're ahead in some respects. If we think about safety systems, all the advanced technology, routing, monitoring, certainly it's impacting our business in a very, very positive way. So we're showing results with these autonomous trucks and autonomous drills, by the way.
Mining companies such as BHP are investing in the type of innovation that will make the whole production process more efficient. But away from the front line of mining, software companies are creating products that can directly assist with business efficiency.
One of those companies is SAP. It was formed in the early 1970s in Germany and now creates enterprise software to manage business operations and customer relations. In 2016, it had a net income of 3.6 billion euros. George Gradle is global lead for mining at SAP. He's responsible for looking after the systems that streamline how mining businesses operate.
Traditionally in mining, operations is governed by what I would call mine technical systems, specialist systems for the geologists, so for 3D visualizations of an ore body and things like that, fleet management systems for tracking vehicles. But to link these technical systems to backend ERP, to trigger off transactions, to visualize what's happening in a mine, this is really what's needed in regards of what, let's call it disruption.
All right, now I want to know more about the mining landscape that you're actually working with. What exactly are you bringing to it in terms of innovation?
If you really want to follow production from raw material to the end, you need 3 things to be straightened out. First of all, planning, and I'm talking about a mine plan which is tightly integrated into a financial plan. Also detects deviations from the plan in real time, which would be the second factor, short interval control. And thirdly, to really follow the flow of the product from the in situ rock into broken rock, all the way into the final product, and understand the cost that each transformation step in your manufacturing process, if you want to call it that way, costs you. If you have these 3 points in place, integrated, financial and mine planning, short interval control, and tracking of the value flow, then you could say you run your mine like a factory.
SAP have simplified the visualization of the whole mining process into a kind of virtual boardroom, a key innovation that they're introducing to the sector.
Well, this is an example of our digital boardroom, which we have set up specifically for mining. It's basically a visualization of major key performance indicators of a mine as you would normally see it in a boardroom. What you see here is, for example, KPIs in the space of financials, in the space of direct production cost, in the area of environment, health and safety, people safety, and then, for example, also contingent workforce, so which is the share of my extended labor that I'm using for my work. And in each one of them, you can drill down basically to show the levels of detail and branch down to, for example, production cost.
And how does it make it easier for businesses that use this software?
In essence, it's all about making transparent on what's going on in operations and give this information in real time to the boardroom. So it's the connectivity, Internet of Things technology allows us to do that, to feed that into an analytics platform like our digital boardroom, to enhance that with transactional data that we already have in our system, gives the board basically a complete picture on what's happening in their operations.
Arguably, the approach that SAP is taking is democratizing business opportunities across the sector, but it's doing this against a challenging background of regulation and strict local laws. After the break, I'll find out more about that. The mining sector has an impact on every aspect of our lives, but keeping it running smoothly requires a reliable and efficient technology infrastructure.
Rob Moffat is president of mining, minerals and metals segments at Schneider Electric. We caught up with him at an innovation trade fair to get the lowdown on the mining landscape.
I think mining, like any other industry, has been transforming over the last several years. Mining traditionally, yes, has been a labour-intensive industry. I think in certain parts of the world that still holds true. But in other parts of the world and in progressive mining companies, I think you're seeing a major shift in terms of that. That's not purely driven by the desire to reduce your labour force. It's driven by a number of different factors. It's driven by the desire to ensure increased safety statistics across your mine sites and your mine operations. And obviously the more that you can reduce people from risk areas, the better it is. Technology helps you do that. What we're seeing in our industry is an exodus of skills that have been built up over 20 and 30 years of people working on mines, in plants, in processing plants, etc. And that wealth of knowledge, unfortunately, those people are reaching retirement age as we speak and are starting to leave the industry. And unfortunately, we're not attracting enough people back into the industry to replace that. So there's this knowledge gap which is developing. Technology, once again, helps us address that by retaining that knowledge within the company and accelerating the onboarding of new people entering the industry and utilizing technologies which millennials like to get engaged with. I mean, you can do induction programs now and safety programs on the newer generation of workforce using things like artificial intelligence, virtual reality training programs. It's things that they've grown up with, sitting on the couch in front of a TV playing TV games. Very similar now, they come in and the stats have shown that by using technology like that, there's a 9% increase in retention rate. So it accelerates the process that you can get people into the workforce, operating safely and operating effectively and operating efficiently.
The challenges for the mining industry are huge, something that Diane Jurgens of BHP is all too aware.
The big goal is to reduce costs and increase efficiencies, which sounds great when we say it, but is that actually happening?
It is, and it is about cost, but in our industry, safety is part of our DNA. So as we work to reduce costs, it's equally important that we keep our eye and our focus on safety and safety systems.
Speaking of safety, perhaps you could tell us more about what you're doing in regards to innovation in safety, because as you said, safety is a concern in every sector, but mining is particularly important because it's a bigger risk for your workforce.
Well, it's helping a lot. We talked about those big drill platforms, stories tall. Out in the Pilbara where they run autonomously, we used to have people on those platforms. And during a lightning storm or bad weather, you'd have to evacuate, get people out of harm's way. But today, they're always out of harm's way. No one's on the platform. So during a lightning storm, these automated drills can keep going and people are safe.
There's also big conversations going on, right now around cybersecurity, the use of big data, the regulatory environment. How does that affect your business?
Well, for cybersecurity, it used to be that we had remote operations and that was a good defense. But the world's changing a lot, so we spend a lot of time and effort and talent in ensuring that we stay cyber safe. We also work with governments and our local communities. STEM skills or science, technology, engineering, we've donated over $55 million over the last 5 years for education. So we're working both on policies in the industries, but also on developing skill sets for the future.
Cybersecurity is something also troubling George Gradle. But he believes that the solution lies in more partnerships.
If you have, let's say, software that controls a vehicle remotely, you don't want to have somebody to take over that vehicle and steer it somewhere where you don't want it to be. So obviously that's a complete new security risk, and I would call it a new challenge. I don't say there is a solution for everything yet, but we definitely, with our history, have shown that we can keep a secure environment. It's not something we can do alone. It's actually another important point in that context. Nobody can do digitization alone. In the collaboration between mine technical and ERP level systems, it always takes a few partners to work closely together.
The digital disruptors like SAP are pushing forward with their innovation, and the adapters are embracing it. But mining is an industry vital to world economic growth. So what does the future hold? I'll find out more after the break. The Internet of Things is a challenging concept for big mining conglomerates with old legacy infrastructure. But the innovators are on hand to help.
In addition to traditional business software, SAP are developing interactive tools to assist all business sectors, including mining.
So this is a depiction of our product called Visual Enterprise, and it's used for helping the maintenance worker essentially. It's how technology, in this case a 3D visualization, can help him perform a task that he may not have performed before. It describes in a step-by-step fashion how he can dismantle a certain pump and how he can reassemble it, and avoids flying in an expert which may have done the exact task before, but it may also take a day or two until he arrives on site. So it's really a good way how technology helps the maintenance worker.
These practical applications are becoming an essential tool for engineers in mining. But what about new digital innovation, such as artificial intelligence and blockchain technology?
I mean, I would always be careful to say these new technologies can solve any problem. But if you adopt it wisely, then I guess you have a good chance. We have built an example where this whole shipment tracking process can be covered with the technology blockchain. In current situation, when an overseas vessel leaves Brazil, goes to China, there's a bill of lading. With blockchain, you can make this whole process much easier. So the unique identification of that specific shipment and the description allows a paperless process.
Businesses are benefiting from the innovation in the mining sector, but what about the society at large? How are they benefiting from all this?
That's a real tricky question, a real difficult question. If we make mining more efficient, people who work in mining should have safer jobs and more long-term jobs, because if you do efficient mining, you can also extend the life of mine. And secondly, if you mine more efficient, then the commodity prices can also stay stable. They don't necessarily need to go up.
Society is benefiting, businesses are benefiting as well. But what about your company? How does this, rollout in technology impact on your business?
I think the major change for us, and we already see that gradually happening, is that our presence it will extend from, let's say, back-end transactional and analytical systems into operations. And that's really the expansion of our footprint that we are striving for. But obviously we need to to reach further into it, to visualize really what's happening in the mine in real time, and bring that basically to the digital boardroom to, again, to show the executives in real time how their operation is performing.
For Diane Jurgens, there are even more exciting opportunities ahead.
So you have all this innovation and it's all exciting. Where do you expect to see the business go in the short to medium term?
Well, I think there's two areas. One is how our operations, how we run the business will change. And the other is we've been talking what that means to our people and our workforce. On the operations side, if you think about that automotive manufacturing plant that we talked about, well, it runs at 45 seconds. Every station, a new car, a new activity happens. The same thing has to happen in our manufacturing plant, only it's thousands of kilometers long between our ore bodies and our customers. So our future in mining is to have that same integrated supply chain so that as we look for ore and we characterize it, we put it on trucks, we put it on trains. That whole thing is automated and synchronized so that it's efficient. Because in the end, we need to get our products to our customers with the lowest energy, lowest water, and the highest quality we can do.
Speaking of the consumers, how does all of this impact on the way that they will start to do things in the future?
Well, our products are commodities that are used to manufacture other things. And the more that we can efficiently produce at a high quality to meet the demand for our rapidly growing world, that energy that we use and the efficiency that we bring our products to market influences what they can do and how successful they are in the global economy.
And say 5 years from now, looking at the mining sector as a whole, how will all of this innovation impact the space?
Well, there's two ways. One is our operations from the time we get ore out of the ground till the time we go to our customers. That's all synchronized and running like clockwork. But I think the thing that I'm really excited about is what it means for our people over time, because they're safer, they're more productive. As we move work off-site to different locations, we're training and offering jobs to people who normally wouldn't be part of this industry. And in fact, we've hired over 1,000 people onto our team because of that. Opportunities to stay safe and also to have different value-added jobs.
And what type of technical innovations, perhaps the ones that exist in other sectors, would you like to see come through in mining?
Well, we're fortunate as one of the largest resources companies in the world. We have deep access to technology in the resource industry. But the real key is to look horizontally because we're also a very large global company. And we have access to technology in many markets and many sectors. And so we are looking at whether it's wearables or voice activation, machine learning, looking at what other industries are doing. At the same time, we're doing some pretty cool things that we're cross-pollinating outwards as well.
You have to tell us about that.
Well, I'd say one of them is our fatigue management systems. I mentioned that if you're driving and you get a little fatigued, normally what people do is they watch your eyeballs with cameras. But what we're working on is technology that actually looks at your physiology, your brain waves. And so we're on the leading edge of putting devices, actually they look like sunglasses, so that we can monitor when you get tired and keep you safe, either through haptics, motions on your seat, or through sounds.
SAP's digital boardroom and the remote control centers and autonomous truck fleets that BHP have introduced are changing how the mining industry operates.
The hope is that this kind of innovation drives greater efficiencies to help meet consumer demand. If that's a success, then mining has a great future.
IoT, powering the digital economy. Brought to you by Schneider Electric.